what I was receiving right off the bat, as I was preparing for this message, was a lot of random, like seemingly random, like references specifically to movies and Disney movies. Like I was getting a lot of these like nostalgic feelings, not necessarily nostalgic, but like, I wrote them down, thank God. Okay, I was hearing Whole New World from Aladdin. Well, at first I was hearing Brave New World, and that was because I have half a cup of a coffee. It's lavender coffee, and it's a blonde roast. And for some reason, lavender reminds me of Harry Potter because of the character, and then Harry Potter reminds me of Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. But then Whole New World was coming through, like the whole song of A Whole New World from Aladdin. And then it was like a cascade of all these other Disney films, like Prince of Egypt and Lion King, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Okay, so as I was like sitting in this kind of like cascade of downloads of like theatrical musical songs, what I was getting for you, my love, this is for you. And this is a little, it's gonna feel, we're just gonna go with it. There's this thing, this kind of concept, I guess. I don't know if you want to call it a concept. It's like energetic or psychic touch points. Okay, so let's say you've seen Aladdin when you were a kid so many times, and you haven't watched it in many years, but then somebody who you're connected to now maybe brings it up or reminds you of it or tells you to watch it, and you just feel inspired to go and watch Aladdin. Perhaps you're going to go do that after this. Maybe not, it doesn't matter. But the energetic psychic touch points is this thing. It's kind of like cookies with the internet browsing. Like when you go and watch something, even though you've seen it, the movie, you have your feelings about it, your memories about it, it's all there in your archive of your mind. But if somebody new or something new, some new energy and new information has entered the scene somehow, whatever that means for you, it's like you can go there and the data, the cookies have been left behind. That's like a psychic thing. And you probably have experienced that if you are already feeling a little psychic yourself. And so maybe that is why I was getting all these Disney movie references. And that could go in so many directions, like tuning back into your own inner child. And there might be like new data for you to work with, healing-wise, or just joyful-wise, innocence-wise, playful-wise. There might be also just like new information that now as an adult brain, you have like a greater perspective or capacity to process like what those movies, by the way, those movies tell stories that are like, I was going to say archaic, but it's more like archetypal. And the archetypes, right? Okay, this is cool. We don't always know this, but we're all working with different archetypal energies. And you could call this like, one way to look at this rather is through astrological lens. Those are the 12 archetypes of the zodiac, but there's so many different kinds of archetypes. And I know some of you will understand that. You know this. But so perhaps there's something there in these different movies. And if it's not these specific Disney movies, maybe there are other movies from childhood that you yourself can like remember. I'm wearing a scarf as a top today, so bear with me. Okay, so that was the first little random, it's never random, okay, but a little bit we wanted to get out. Lavender is so yummy. Blonde roast, so yummy. Okay, now before we go further, I do want to do our little intention here. May every thought, word, and action be in harmony, be in alignment with the highest good, the greatest good for all beings everywhere, including myself, including yourself. And so it is. Yes, yes, yes. Wow. I just felt like a big energy shift. And I think that that might happen, by the way. Like, there might be a big energy shift, a softening, as you, if you feel called to, explore those kinds of, I don't know, musicals. If it's not that, again, it could be anything, like, relevant to you, whatever movies or whatever it was. But so, a few other notes I do have, which we're just going to kind of go off of today, because that feels right, that feels resonant to do. So it's going to I feel we're going to pivot entirely, but who knows, it might connect back into the first part of that little message about, and it's another note, by the way, about sadhana, that playlist that I've been speaking of and I've shared. And what I've been picking up, because some of you may have been tuning in to the sadhana playlist and perhaps like going through the videos and picking and choosing, it's not meant to be picked at and, you're not supposed to do that. When I say you're not supposed to do that, let me just let spirit come through here and really speak for me on this, because, and what I'm getting is actually to share my experience, my own experience with satsang or with spiritual practice. And so the first thing that came to mind was, remember in one of the videos we shared for your psychic abilities are increasing or whatever, we spoke about the gunas, which was tamas, rajas, and sattva. These are 3 qualities that we all have a mixture of. And so like tamas was dullness, inertia, rajas was activity and passion, and then sattva, or sattvic quality, is like more clarified. There's more clarity, there's more wholeness, it's more about purity, but don't get weird about the word. It's just, it's something you come to through working with tamas and rajas. Okay, so what I felt called to share, what wants to be shared, is about tamas. One quality, by the way, we're only touching on the very basic surface level of what these things are, these 3 gunas. So like, you might want to do more research, but we're being called to go a little deeper into the tamas in particular and rajas. Okay, so one thing, when you don't finish what you start, okay, and I have experience with this, so I'm speaking from my personal experience. I'm not coming at you, okay? So keep an open mind and open heart here. I love you, like for real. So it's okay. But if you don't finish what you start, right, that is in and of itself a tamistic quality. Tamistic quality is inertia and ignorance. It's darkness. So you can think, another way to look at this too is like in the realm of food, it's like undercooked food. People who eat undercooked food a lot, or like overcooked food, or like frozen food, or like heavily processed food. We're not judging. That's a whole nother story. The food thing is a whole nother story. Don't worry, okay? It takes time. However, this is just another way to look at it, to show you the real, like, it's not just something we're saying from, nowhere. It really does have an implication on the elemental makeup of your body, and that affects how you feel and how you think and the capacity for you to perceive. Also, your behaviors. If you're not finishing what you start and you're moving from one thing to the next thing, you're staying on the surface. And that's called ignorance. And it's okay. But this combined with the rajas of passion and activity, and the restlessness that could manifest in rajas when it's unbalanced as well, with the inertia and the ignorance of tamistic, not finishing what you start, it keeps you in a loop, restless loop, because you're not finishing, you're going from one thing to the next, you're never going beyond that, you're in a circle. It's like a plate. I actually wrote a little poem sort of thing about this in the summer, and it was like something along the lines of spinning and spinning and spinning, appearing to go somewhere, or appearing to be moving but not really going anywhere, something like this. Maybe I'll have to find it and share it in another video. Okay, so I say this, again, not to roast, sorry, I don't know why I said roast, I never say roast, because my blonde coffee is a blonde roast. Pour over. So good. I say this not to judge you or anything like that. Like, I am speaking from direct experience. Like, I've been in that place. That's why I could write a poem about it. That's why I can speak to it. But also, like, being guided to share that with you. Because from the Thomistic thing that we said about ignorance, and then the restless activity is born arrogance, okay? And I wanted to now pivot into this realm of arrogance. Okay, so in my experience, it feels like a rite of passage. If you're really on the path and you're going to do a sadhana practice and you're serious about awakening, I say that with love, not sarcasm, even though it kind of sounded sarcastic. You will be, you have to, it's like a rite of passage to have your ego exposed, and that arrogance, like, you have to look at it directly and be like, oh, well, dang. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to burn a little, it's going to sting a little. I'm hearing like the keen sting. I think that's like a Rumi quote, or it's either Rumi or Dumbledore. But they're talking about love. And so that reminds me of the fact that when you feel that keen sting, I think it was Dumbledore, of love or of arrogance, like when your ego is exposed in that way, when you are seen, that arrogance is seen in some way or another. And we're going to give some examples in a moment, so this makes more sense. Just the reminder is that is grace and that is love, and it's part of the process, and you're not doing anything wrong, actually. And it's okay to be a little, like, it's okay to go through this process, is what wants to be shared for you. And you do not need to try to pretend to be anything. You know what I mean? And so now we're going to share some examples in that light of not pretending to be anything. So when I first started listening to satsang, and we're going to use this as an example, but it can apply to other spiritual kind of things, like whatever it is that you're into. Doesn't have to be satsangs. However, it's very potent for exposing your ego. Okay, so when I first started listening, it was my mind. I was listening with my mind, and I could not even attempt to do any sort of, sure, I could attempt to do the guidance that they provide, or that's, there in a satsang setting, looking at these questions as like, who's the one perceiving this? Who's the one feeling these ways? Or who's the one, thinking all these thoughts? My mind was still very much the one watching and listening and trying to hold on to everything. But there was still a silence enough in me at the beginning to where, even though I was like listening through the mind mostly, I was still kind of able to observe like the mind and where it would try to go with what it was hearing. It would try to, that was the arrogance, by the way. The mind will try to take what it's hearing at the first go. This is the Thomistic surface level. And then the Rajas activity, restlessness, is trying to, like the mind trying to make it its own thing, like trying to take this information intellectually and never actually experience it. So my experience was I could notice the mind would try to do that, and it would want to go do things with that information, okay? But there was at least enough space in me to not do that, like to just, notice somehow that this was the mind, and more as I just kept listening. And I don't know how this happened. You could call this grace, I just kept listening instead of following the mind, even though I was very much in the mind. Eventually, the listening, the watching, the observing became this full-on like, oh, I'm no longer fully identified with this mind and these thoughts and what it's trying to do and all the actions it's trying to take and all the tendencies it's, typically obsessed with, you know what I mean? To like, this could take so many forms, but in the realm of arrogance, it's tied into ignorance. It's like it's not a full or complete understanding. And yet the arrogant mind will try to get you to, pretend that you do know, okay? And it's part of the process again. So I really want you to feel this gentleness we're really trying to impart. Like, it's okay. Like, you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna feel like you've got to let that arrogance be exposed. But the caveat, if you want to call it that, is that if now that you're hearing this, like, and maybe it's not, whatever, it doesn't have to be this one is the end all be all, but now that you're starting to hear this, perhaps, you've got to listen to that inside yourself, because we're speaking from a part of yourself. This is coming, from self to self. So it's not me trying to tell you what to do at all. Like, it's this inner part that you really want the full experience, like the full truth. You're not wanting to compromise your truth, that truth, okay? And so to kind of encapsulate this, it's listening. Listening is your best friend in satsang or in spiritual practice and meditation. And that listening will evolve. And you're not going to have a perfect experience. Like, it's just not what it is. It's not going to be a perfect experience. It's not. Okay, I feel like that's all we can say about it. The last thing we want to note about this whole sadhana playlist is, again, emphasizing we take a year, like we do this every year, once a year. That implies, right, that those videos, those practices, those meditations, if you're serious and earnest, okay, it doesn't matter. If you're not serious and earnest, it doesn't matter. Go do what you want with them. But if you are, do not try to run through them and say it's not for you, or say it is for you, or whatever. You want to do it slowly in a way that feels organic and natural, and, respect it. Respect your own practice. So if you pick one video, if it's not those, it doesn't matter if it's a video. I mean, like, all the different alternatives of spirituality, however it manifests for you. I guess the in a nutshell, what we're trying to say and shine a light on. Go slowly. Go at your own pace and finish what you start. If you try one thing, whether it's Advaita, Vedanta, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's like New Age something, whether it's your own creation, like, I don't care. Doesn't matter, But one thing at a time, and finish. Give it a chance to blossom in your heart before you just make some surface level decision. Okay? And you are the only one who can know what is going to be for you, Experiment. Give time every day or whatever you can to experimentation. It doesn't have to be 7-10 things in a day. Please, pick one and work with one and start there. So that was like, kind of a lot, I know, when it comes to these things, but we had to say that, like, that's been coming through heavily this past weekend, and we don't want there to be like, don't go crazy trying to be spiritual. Just be, not saying you are. That was just a phrase. But, I get it as well. Now, the other thing when it comes to, do we want to say that? Let's see what else wants to be shared. What else is here? This feels like, I had other things that I wanted to say, but this isn't about me, so I don't know if there's anything else. Let's just tune in for a second, breathe, take a few deep breaths, and see what happens. Okay, so 2 things came through. Balancing the gunas through, time. Meaning, it's practice. Like, we don't, do one thing and expect it to be done. You know what I mean? So I guess just to kind of put a bow on the whole thing about the gunas, and I think I will really at some point have to go deeper into the gunas, since we feel to share about it so much. But giving yourself the grace of time, you know, like, meaning every 24 hours is like a cyclical part of nature, is your existence. And so when we practice something every day, it's like your brain is a record of time and space. And that's giving me the Aladdin A Whole New World song, which we're going to go into next. But it's like, that's part of the commitment, and that's going to help you balance out Tamas and Rajas when it comes to your spiritual practice, whatever it is, whatever you decide, whatever you begin to, and your decision can be, I'm going to experiment with this for a week, okay? But give yourself the time every day for a week to experiment with something that you choose, and do not let your mind take the surface level information, because I promise, if you do that, meaning if you actually commit to not letting, like, just watching the mind instead of going with it, you will notice deeper and deeper layers that are there that you would never touch if you're continuously following the mind. Now, this brings me into the second thing that wanted to come through as we close this, about who's thinking these thoughts, okay? And following the mind, like, what does this mean? And I'm feeling called to share, and I don't know yet how this is going to relate, or I mean, I know it's going to relate, but how it's going to connect in a way that feels succinct and intelligent. But whatever, we're going to trust. Get this thing a little tighter. Who? So I'm being called to share this, so I'm going to trust it. When I was like in high school, one of my best friends in high school and I were just total goofballs, total like silly people. I don't know. And one thing I was like remembering and just like experiencing again in my memory, like it was so funny. We would, and I was trying to remember like why we started to do this, but I don't remember. And I feel like, let me just share what it is. We would like look at each other, like we would have our senior year, we had a lot of classes together, and we would always, like, we were troublemakers for sure, you know, just always causing trouble and being silly and joking around. And we would like look at each other and just go like, who? Like, like, who? I don't know. Like, I don't know where it came from. Maybe we would like get in trouble, or like, you know, not really, but the teacher would be like, stop talking or something, and we'd be like, who's talking? Because I don't know what it was about. It's almost as if like nothing was actually happening, and that's why it was so funny, because we would just be like, who? Like, what? Like, I don't know. I can't even. This is what I'm like, why am I sharing this? But Spirit's telling me to do it. Probably because it's this like, nothing's happening. There's no one, like, it could be me or her who was causing the trouble, who did it, I don't know, you know, and it would just be so funny. And what made it more funny is like everyone else around like had no idea why we were laughing so hard. And this would happen often, all the time. I mean, anytime we would like look at each other in the eyes and just say, who? It's like explosion of laughter, because that's kind of what happens in your inquiry as you deepen, as you keep looking and you don't follow the mind, because you soon come to realize like who's thinking these thoughts? There's nobody there. Like, but I can't say that. I can't say that. And like, whatever, you have to experience that. Okay? And so I think that wanted to come through because there's like this silliness, this playfulness, you know? And also the fact that it was like a friend and I, satsang, you know? And maybe we'll do some sort of meditations together, because I know how important it is to have that. I don't know. I'm feeling like two things coming through. Like, I'm like, who am I to be saying all this stuff? But then the second thing is like, no, exactly. Like, who are you? Like, it's fine. Okay. I don't know if this is going to make sense. I'm feeling, I don't know. It does make sense. I just sometimes, I guess, am protective over these things that I'm speaking of. So I don't want to like speak out of turn or be arrogant myself. But I trust always that these are from Spirit. It really is. And when I say Spirit, I mean like that higher self, that pure self in me and in you. It's the same. Okay. Is there anything else about that who-ness? I guess just, no, there's nothing else. Okay. A little bit of an abrupt, strange ending. Maybe that'll be relevant. I'm gonna actually look through my notes. I'm being called to do that to see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, we did begin this message with the energetic touch points, like the psychic kind of cookies we were talking about. Oh my god, that's so cool. I love that. That's part of the octaves, by the way, somehow. What are the octaves? Still in progress. Yeah. We're gonna end it there, but it's like, let me know if you know if you kind of get what we were sharing about the kind of like psychic cookies. What are cookies, right? You know what cookies are. Browsing in your, like, you leave behind like a breadcrumb, a trail of like your browsing activity. Maybe I'm giving away too much. So if you want to know more about that, let me know. And you'll have to also kind of like reveal to me that you do know what I'm talking about for us to go deeper. So that's fun. Okay, we're gonna leave it here, and I'm sending you so much love. And peace and light. And we leave it for your highest good, the highest good for all beings everywhere, including myself, including yourself. So it is.